up a seat at the bar to join us for another episode of McAnally's Pubcast, a podcast exploring the fun and fantastical mind of Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files series. Hosts Tanzan, Maggie, and me bring you another round of literary analysis on this immense, immersive, and colorful environment inhabited by Harry Dresden, the world's only licensed private investigator and professional wizard. Join an active and engaged community of new and die-hard dedicated fans focused on the fabulous themes, theories, characters, context, lore, and more. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.
Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 10.23, The Evil Overlord List, where we are covering the novel Death Masks. My name is Tanzan, and I'm joined by Maggie.
Hello, hello.
And Jess.
Bonjour, mes amis.
Oui, oui.
Oh, oh.
Ooh la la.
Tabarnak.
Comme si, comme
Tabarnak,
ça.
yeah.
Tout alors.
Thank you to our Patreon subscribers for your generous support. It's people like you who help us to do what we do. If you're not yet a Patreon subscriber, sign up today and get a fuck ton of bonus content, kick-ass merch, behind-the-scenes outtakes, and more. Sign up today at www.patreon.com/freeflowrambling.
Chapter 26. Dresden finds out from Susan what happened after they left the hotel. They plan to go to Michael's and then try to rescue Shiro once the wards come down.
So, great way to wake up in the morning. Watching your girlfriend do some yoga.
Excuse me, it's Tai Chi.
Same shit. Except one is meant to kill. Very exciting.
Exactly.
And it was yoga, right? Because it fucking kills me.
Yoga's meant to kill yourself. Tai Chi is meant to you can kill others.
Very slowly.
Very slowly. Well, only if you do it that way, but...
You're going to have to do this fight with me at a snail's pace, because I've only ever practiced it as a snail's pace.
Yeah.
I don't know how to kill you faster than this.
It's kind of cute. I like how he makes a little nod to that, right? He's like so many people practicing. I was like, yeah, a lot of them probably don't realize it's like bone-breaking holds and like, Vulcan grips and things. I'm like, fair. But
So if you practice Tai Chi, you are a sleeper agent.
right,
Just waiting.
just somebody's gonna.
Whether or not you wake
activate
up or not, we'll see. Right. So Susan asks about the rope, and we learn that it's magical, and it has hair from a unicorn's mane, and came from Fix.
How cool is
And
that?
that its enchantment is limited to his home turf, so it wouldn't have worked anywhere else. Like, circumstantially, this is it. I kind of do like that he does clarify that, because sometimes it's kind of like, why aren't you bringing this shit up?
Well, and exactly, right? Like Susan says, like, great, perfect, that sounds great. And he's like, yeah, no, it won't work on the bad guys we're facing right now, which is a little too convenient. I'm like, well, and he, explains on why it's convenient. It's easier to make it work at home kind of a thing, which I get. But he's also a little, like, disappointed. He's like, I'm kind of glad for the shop talk. He's like, but I'm also kind of, I want to talk about that, right? Like, we did our thing, and then we had to, like, literally go to like separate corners of the house to, right? So we didn't, get Susan all fired up again and risk any other temptations for stuff. And then, so while he's sitting there staring at her doing, and then she's just like, quit drooling and tell me about these handcuffs. He's like, great. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. And like little unicorn hair thing and whatever.
I believe in unicorns.
Right?
Ding, 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 ding. Oh, that's fairies.
That's fairies. That's
Well,
fairies.
we learned with Elaine, like, unicorns can be fucking hard to groom.
Well,
Those are the church bell ones.
Yeah.
Conk, 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 conk.
well, yeah, it's I do kind of like how this universe is one of the ones that has like the different types of unicorns. They're not right. So we only, as readers, got a really good look at the winter, like, war horse unicorn kind of a thing. But Elaine does reference, she's like, The ones in summer were more prancy. So, it's like, that the typical, like, beautiful, loving, natural, won't harm anything unicorns exist as well. But there's also,
that makes sense, because there's, like, a ton of different dog varieties, a ton of different cat varieties. Yeah. You can't compare a Chihuahua to a Great Dane. Like...
Yeah, sentient beings are going to make their more own sentient choices and not be limited to the environment around them.
But
the one that they met with Elaine was a summer one. The Clydesdale was Team Summer. He was working for Lily.
But he was masquerading as...
I thought he was working for...
No.
The Clydesdale?
Aurora, not Team Lily. Yeah, he was working for Aurora.
Aurora, yes.
I'm like, no, he was trying to kill Lily. Yes,
Summer Lady.
Summer Lady, but yeah, they disguised as like a big winter unicorn to try and throw the whole thing
But
off.
he was like a centaur who was always Clydesdale looking, and then he was a Clydesdale looking unicorn.
Okay, yes.
I'm just saying, okay?
Okay.
It's not all prancy little unicorns in summer, okay? They've got their Clydesdale versions as well.
It's no Shetland. It's much less intimidating.
Well, no, I think it just worked for him because that was more like what he was like, that it worked for him to
so if it was a pure unicorn, then it would have been more...
Yeah, then probably like Talos might have had a better time impersonating it because he was all thin and willowy and more elegant than... Right? I think that's part of why... I don't know. Whatever. I guess I can see her. I don't know if that's... What.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
He might... I don't know. Maybe it's a fairy thing. Maybe he could have been a light prancy thing, too. I don't know. Because Talos was running around as like an ogre. But anyway...
This is just going to go back to whether or not vampires are in charge of their own skin suit or not.
Exactly.
Are fairies in control of what version of unicorn they turn into?
Variety is good.
Variety is good. I'm just saying, yes, I just do take it as a fact of that, yes, there are different types of the unicorns in that you have the light, fancy, fairy, last unicorn kind of unicorns, and then you have big, scary war horses, like, with no eyes and, like, skeletal carapaces. So, yeah, we don't know. I mean, it's yeah. Who knows which ones he used for the handcuffs, but point is that, yes. Magical handcuffs that he can't take anywhere else.
I kind of hope it's a winter unicorn, just because that just seems a little bit more like on point for what the scene just happened.
It does, but then Fix is summer, right? So yeah, how much harder would Fix, like, would he just have to go to one of his, like, gentle summer unicorns and ask? Or did he, like wrestle a fucking winter unicorn and, like, rip out a handful?
Sir, we whipped the ass of this one winter unicorn. Here is his hair.
We scalped him.
Perfect. I've got the perfect use for this.
So horrifying. Scalped unicorn.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, they just kind of like, vampire teeth the unicorns there,
It could have just like trimmed, I mean, who knows? But it's
just a little haircut. It's fine. Just a little off the top.
Yikes. A little off the top. The part that makes a unicorn a unicorn.
Well, no, this is from the hair, not the horn. So they didn't use that part of it when they did. They might have taken that off the top too, but
terrifying.
Completely.
So Breakfast of Champions, have a glass of Coke.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't be a Dresden Files novel without Burger King or Coke.
Absolutely. Or coffee, but it's more convenient to get
God,
Coke.
I haven't had Burger King in a long time now. I want it.
So fun fact for people who don't follow us on social media. I recently saw a study come out that was talking about where the most Burger Kings in the world are, and Chicago has the most Burger Kings in the world for one city as third place.
It's third place.
Oh.
They're third place for the most Burger Kings in one city.
That's interesting. Do you remember who was first and second, or just not relevant at all? Or?
I totally remember what was first and second.
I remember once.
One was in Texas. Miami and Houston. Or Houston first, Miami second.
Miami just doesn't strike me as a Burger King kind of location.
But it is a Florida kind of location.
Well, yeah, I guess.
It is also like a spring breaky kind of, so maybe they get enough, like...
I just think of Miami, I think of retirees, like Golden Girls.
Yeah.
And like...
Well, either they love their Burger King a lot more than we gave them credit for.
Like,
there is
it's just
enough
like, population-wise, right? Like, Chicago's got like...
It sort of
we already
matches,
said,
right?
like, they've got, like, 6 times the population of all of Canada, right? Like,
hot dogs, pizza, and Burger King.
Yeah.
Yeah, right
Works
there.
for me.
It's there.
Well, there you go. So it's either just very fortuitous that Harry is such a big Burger King fan because it's or maybe
It's his
there's
only
some-
option.
Or yeah, but she's like, well, there's more Burger Kings than anything there, so Harry's gonna like Burger King.
Completely non sequitur, but have you guys ever watched on Netflix Chicago Party Ant?
Not.
I don't even know what that is.
Okay. It's like every sort of Chicago sort of stereotype.
Is it a movie?
It's a
TV
cartoon.
show?
It's a cartoon series, and she's just like the biggest, trashiest mess ever. I was like,
Chicago Ant.
Chicago Party Ant. Party Ant.
Party Ant. Yeah, okay. Chicago
Aunt.
Aunt. Aunt.
Well, the next time we sit down to record, I'll know everything about it.
It's a cute watch.
I
You know,
have
she's
no
a
idea
big
what
sports
this
fan. She's
Nice.
she drinks her face off to blackout drunk. Goes home with random strangers. It's great.
Chicago.
Chicago. Woo! Party on.
She's got a rooftop view of one of the baseball fields.
Oh, nice.
That's an expensive place. It's got to be a very expensive apartment.
It comes up actually in the series.
What is Chicago? Wrigley Field? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So Susan catches up Harry on what happened right after the hotel. So Martin pulled a gun on Susan, hence why they couldn't actually stop and come back. And
What?
and that Anna Valmont is with Charity. She says that Michael and Sonia haven't returned from St. Louis yet, and nor have made contact. And Shiro was like magically ready for them. And once they got there, instructed them where to go. And once they did get there, it was actually Shiro who did say, "Give me a 2-minute head start before you come down."
I like it because Harry calls Shiro's, like, instincts fringe benefits, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's actually, like, the main job. It's like, God is like, you have a mission. Go open the door and leave the house and go find the vampire or the fallen or the whatever, right? Like, that's not the fringe benefits. That's the job description.
Right.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I get how Harry's saying it too, that exactly. It's sometimes it's more direct than others, but I mean, like, yeah, because a lot of times you'll see they do still have to do their research, or they get a tip from somewhere, or like you say, it's not just a magical compass in their head or whatever, but yeah, every once in a while it's like that, right? And yeah.
Well, I do like that it was addressed, because I did have questions myself when I was reading it, going like why was
How did they
Shiro like right there, and then Susan's like behind, and she's the one with the supernatural powers that could have made it beforehand. So okay,
Different supernatural powers. Yeah, it wasn't just
He was
sniffing
just
them
like,
out.
nope, hold your ass down, stop, wait, then go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
makes sense.
I like how they comment too, so that, yeah, Michael and Sonia are gone and haven't made contact, and he's like, that doesn't sound like them, and Susan's like, yeah, they're worried, like, Shiro and Charity are, like, worried, right? So you're like, again, it gives you just that, oh, it wasn't just, it's like, no, that's not normal. Like,
Michael gets in contact with his family.
yeah, right, he keeps up, and it's just exactly right, we don't know Sonia, so it's
Foul
like,
play is afoot.
well, right, is exactly, it gives you that little, like, oh, they went herring off to St. Louis for something, but haven't heard from them since.
Boys
like,
trip.
that's-
Don't bug us.
yeah, like, right, so yeah. And then, yeah, exactly, Shiro, though, is there and just waiting, like, he knew he was gonna get a call, and, whoa, this is what it is, okay, so. And she's just, even there, like, right, like, she's just, like, it wasn't a director or anything like that, like, it's not like he was like, oh, we have to go to the Central Library downtown. Right? It was like they get going, and he just got these little, like, into, like, oh, turn left here, go right here. You know what I mean? So,
It's like the instant GPS of God that's saying, like, there's a traffic accident over here, turn left to avoid the regular route.
yeah, which is what we did on the way here, because I was just about to take the off-ramp onto the highway thingy, and it was, like, a whole bunch of cars, and I'm like, nope, I'm just going to go back into traffic here.
I have sometimes, I will admit this, had the GPS on, and Google's like, and I kind of know where to go, and then Google's like, take this way. I'm like, oh, no, this way's faster. And so I ignore it, and then I end up in traffic, and they're like, oh, god damn it.
That's
Yeah, and then Google Maps was like, yeah, bitch.
I
That's
told
why
you.
we highlighted
That's
this one
why I
as red.
told you. It's at this time
Crap.
of day. That's
Yeah.
why I told you not to go. Yeah, I don't know what was going on. I don't know if there was construction or an accident, but it was all backed up getting off of Glenmore onto Deerfoot. And I'm just like, no, this doesn't look like it's moving. We're going to go a different way. Which thankfully was not held up. So otherwise we might still be sitting there. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, didn't look fun. So it just makes you wonder, right? Did he get like the little, like, is it like a little like tingle? Like, so Harry's had a couple of different ways. Like when he did the stone table thing, right? He had the little chip on the thing, and it just the thing leaned, and so he just went according to that. And I don't know how many we've other come up with or will, but like other times there's like where he gets that kind of like, or no, he does it with in the first book when he's sniffing out Gimpy Lawrence or whatever, right? He gets like a sniffer thing, so he's like following his nose, so it's kind of like, you know, where the scent comes from the strongest is he, you know, turns this way, you know what I mean? So you're like, how is this manifesting in Shiro?
I feel like Shiro would be more like of a Joan of Arc sort of a thing, where like this commanding voice is like, turn left.
Yeah, maybe that's exactly what, yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting to think of which way is like...
The angel version of GPS just makes me happy, though.
Just got, like that like invisible string that you're just like
yeah, right.
rolling
Like,
up
you get,
everywhere
like, a
you
tug
go.
here, or is it like lighted?
Oh yeah, like a tug maybe. That one would make sense, right?
You know, but anyways,
Yep.
so... However, anyways, he just, he directs them there, and exactly. So already, it I don't know if you did. It makes me wonder, you know, like, so how much did he know going in? Because, as evidence, the knights sometimes know a lot, sometimes don't. And he was directed there, and he was sort of ready to go. So was this just a vague, I know something's coming, but when he's like, give me a couple minutes, was that just to assess the situation before they all came in? Or was that I know 2 minutes is all I'm going to need for this, and I can...
See, I would take it much more to be Shiro's like, I know my plan already, I know what I'm gonna do. I need 2 minutes to get ahead of Susan to get my plan in motion, because you're just gonna run in there guns blazing, and I want to make a deal instead. But I'm suddenly just had the idea, what if like the destination is more just like, you know, Schrodinger's destination? And if Michael decides that it's going to be in the kiosk behind the IKEA, they're going to be in the kiosk behind the IKEA. And it's like every time, like Shiro's like, I'm going to walk into Undertown, and the place I choose is where they're going to end up having been. Right? Because, you know, the Fallen is still part of God's, you know, thing as well, right? They're anti-God. They broke off, but they're still technically God's
like
creation.
A bit of a lack of free will on the Knight's part. Like, it's just like they just...
Well, partially. I mean, God's whole thing
They make
is...
these choices because somebody else has sort of got the puppet strings on them.
God's whole point is free will, but at the same time, like, he needed to create the knights to go work for him because he's like, I let humanity do whatever they want,
But
and
that's
that
the
makes
faith
them...
part. They just relinquish every control with faith.
But that makes them vulnerable to the angels, which I also created, and which are now working against them. So I've got to even the playing field just a little bit by having these knights out there working on my behalf against the problem I created for them if I want the whole of humanity to continue this whole faith-based free will sort of thing.
Would that make them vulnerable to the fallen angels? Because they're still angels, so they would still have that, like, wavelength?
Well, no, I mean, they're there to
they'd
be...
like, doo-doo.
They're there to be the exact equal opposite force to the angels. That's why the three knights exist, is to go against the fallen and to hold off the 30 fallen against the rest of humanity. Is these three knights are supposed to be equal to the 30 fallen.
Yeah.
Just in the same way that the fairies have to have their own knights because they can't do everything as a fairy. They're like, we need a little bit. We've got our own rules, but there's a slight way around it. God's like, we've got our own rules, but there's a slight way around it. I employ the knights, and they do a little bit more than is what I technically said I was gonna do, right?
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to flood humanity anymore. I got three knights then go do the shit that makes me not have to flood humanity.
Just wipe out everybody. And
right? So, it's a little bit like, you know...
And I feel like we've kind of touched on this before. Like, you're like, well, they have to go do God's will. But again, they have that free choice. Shiro does not have to walk into that building. Shiro can say, love you, God, but I'm out.
This is part of being the martyr, is that you want to do it anyways, you know?
Is that your
free will is exactly in line with what God wants you to do, which makes you the perfect Knight of the Cross. It's not that God's influencing you anyways. It's just that, like, you know, same way as, like, Mary wasn't pure because... You know, God made her pure. God was like, you're already the purest thing on earth. Here's Jesus.
Well, this strikes me as a faith thing for the knights and less than a...
Well, but again, not all of the knights are Catholic.
Well, yeah, there's...
no, but he said it before that they had a faith in something.
Yeah.
Like, whether or not it was, like, a specific thing. They had a faith in a belief. Or belief.
But that's what I'm saying. That has nothing to do with God and everything to do with the fact that the knights just happen to already be the most faithful, trusting people on earth anyways, which made them good for the job.
Or willing to be, yeah.
You know, like, again, best way I can say it is, like, God went out into the world and was like, who's the most pure, faithful woman on this earth? Mary. Okay. you get to be Jesus' mother. Who's
Wanna
the
be mom?
most pure, faithful people on the planet? You're a knight now. Like, again, like, do you want the job? And they're all like, yeah, because, you know, he's specifically selecting people that are going to accept the angel into their dream and take up the sword or the baby or whatever the hell it is.
Because wasn't it?
Or building an ark, or throwing their child off a mountain, or whatever else God has asked for people in the past.
That was Hera and Hephaestus, but
I'm thinking of Isaac and Abraham.
I read somewhere that the translation for virgin, the word virgin, had been drastically like
altered.
So Mary wasn't actually a virgin; it just meant like a woman of virtue.
Okay, so here's the thing. Let's just get into this right now.
Let's do it.
The original way to get into heaven was to be a martyr, okay? And that worked really great for the hundreds and hundreds of years that all the Romans and everyone else were going around killing all the Catholics. But once Catholicism took over the whole world, they were like, well, you know, you can't really get into heaven being a martyr now when everyone's just actually wanting to participate. So we need a new reason to get into heaven. And they're like, that's it, abstinence. Abstinence from alcohol, abstinence from fish, abstinence from sex. How do we promote that? Well, okay, let's say Mary was a virgin. Okay, great. All the children she had, delete them from history, delete them from the books. Every time it mentioned Jesus had a brother, delete, because we now need to promote abstinence as the reason to get into heaven, because we can't be martyrs anymore because we did that too successfully. Now we need a new thing. No one's ever going to give up sex. We can keep that one forever.
I know what you're talking about, because that was when they had that like sort of all the prominent church heads.
They had a bunch of kings and a bunch of church heads all met up to decide.
There's actually and then there's actually a term for like a period in history where they did this, and they did it twice.
Yeah, I can't
retconning.
I can't remember what the term is called, but this is how the whole fight between whether or not.
And then they chose which books actually go into the Bible, or which
versions, Genesis and blah blah blah. But the reason was that we have a fight now about whether or not Jesus is or is not holy, is both God and is both human, is half and half, is one and is also the other.
Is metaphorical or actually physical.
All of those fights happened at the exact same conversation, and they weren't able to agree among themselves, so they're just like, just believe whatever the hell you want. Because they were like, whether or not he is like both fully man and both fully holy, they couldn't describe it well enough to appease everyone.
Kind of
so they basically just never did, and now we all get to argue about it now too.
Yeah, because there was even like the female apostle that they just like
erase
gone.
Not allowed.
Yeah,
and I mean all of it can be really hearsay at this point.
If you believe in
history, but
sorry, Mom, if you believe in Catholicism, you're not allowed to believe that. If you believe in history, that's what they think happened.
Right.
I was gonna say, you get a lot of that where there's like, again, definitions of, because I remember not that long ago reading one of them where I don't remember if it was Mary Magdalene or something, that was specifically it, but they're like the word whore or something, like, no, it wasn't originally whore, it was just like, or, you know, whatever, right, where exactly along the way they tweaked or
how do we make our women more subservient? Call this woman a whore, she had power? Fuck it, she's a whore now, you don't believe her?
Yeah, you know, things like that where, yeah, exactly, they're like, well, original, or just simple translational issues, you know, not that even necessarily we're trying to undermine or whatever, but they're just like, oh, well, now that we know more about languages and now that we have more things, you know, now we wouldn't necessarily translate that, you know, the original word for this might have been used for...
Think about the word okay. What would you say is a synonym for okay?
Yes. Good. Nice. Well done.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Right? But all okay.
I approve. Yeah.
Okay came from the word all okay, which was A-L-L-O, all correct, right? With the C, correct.
Yeah.
And they changed it and spelt it O-L-L-K-O-R-R-E-C-T as a joke. And then it became okay to continue the joke. And now okay is not slang anymore. It's an actual word for all correct.
That's the beauty of it.
But that's not the thing. Synonym doesn't mean all correct for okay anymore,
so
right?
We've got the evolution of language. We have the passage of time, which actually is like the game of telephone.
Telephone game, yeah.
I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before.
And then the victor is always right. So whoever actually is the leader in charge will dictate what they want you to believe.
History is written by the victor.
Yeah.
You know the great mighty hunter Nimrod?
Yeah, you Nimrod.
Nimrod, but
right.
Nimrod is now known as a... Now it's known as a fucking you're an idiot because Bugs Bunny jokingly referred to Elmer Fudd as Nimrod. Nobody got the reference. sarcastically comparing him to a great hunter. They just took it at face value as, that's what you call a moron.
Right.
And now Nimrod means moron, not mighty hunter.
Propaganda goes a long way. Like
Fully.
Napoleon was actually for the time frame, he was above average in height.
Yeah.
But he was slandered, saying that he was this short.
Yeah, to make the British people
Tyrant.
feel more confident going to war against him. They all thought that they were going up to war against a small, little
midget
tiny man.
I just...
Nope, not the case. Just a regular average guy. But again, you still, even today, you like reading a normal book, you'll get like, oh, total Napoleon complex going on here, and you're like, no, that's not really a thing. But obviously, it is a thing because we made it a thing.
That is, yeah.
I don't know what we were talking about in the Dresden world anymore. I don't know what we got.
Faith and how
Welcome
the
to
knights
Faithful
are...
Rambling. Ha ha ha.
Yes, if the knights are being, like, controlled by God or whether they're doing it of their own free will. But that's what the point is I was going to say, too, about...
Schrodinger's Knights of the Cross.
Schrodinger's Knights of the Cross. Do they end up at the right place because wherever they end up is the right place? Or do they go to the right place because they're being led to the right place? Exactly.
Have you seen the meme yet? It's been going around, and it's like Schrodinger is in his coffin, and there's like a picture of somebody going like,
I've not
I
seen
have
that.
not.
Very
but-
funny.
I posted it on Facebook.
I like.
Now that you've unblocked me from Facebook, I'm gonna
sorry.
block you.
I had a lot of people, and then like, apparently I was very private then.
They've all turned 18. Let me unblock them now.
It's just a few years late. Sorry. What you were like, what, 15, 16 when I met you?
16, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just enough for me to be like, oh, the shit I say online is not appropriate for you.
And it took 10 more years for you to be like, oh, I guess you can see.
Out of sight, out of mind. I had no idea.
I
did
blocked
that.
you out for like 8 of those years.
Basically, the plan for the day is that they're gonna go and collect the beetle, and then they're gonna head to Charities and Michael's and see what the plan is, what the hell is going on that side of things, because Harry rescued Anna Valmont, and then obviously didn't get time to catch up with her, right? And he's also got to go update Charity and be like, you were down 2 nights, now you're down 3. How's everything going over here? Right. I can't imagine why you don't like me getting involved in your life.
Well, and he also needs to let the Knights just know what happened, period, because they don't know that.
Well, if he can, right? Because like that's what she's saying is we don't know where Michael and Sonia are. He's been in touch, so.
But he also doesn't know that yet. Like he's just.
Yeah, he's hoping that
he can get in touch with them now.
Yeah, Susan's like, I don't know, they were out doing their thing, so we brought Shiro. So he's like, yeah we need to go find
And he does
them.
figure Shiro's still alive at this point, like that he wouldn't be immediately executed.
24 hours is 24 hours. You're not going to cut that
Let's take
short.
advantage of that.
Yeah, because Susan uses the and I have to admit, like, yeah, it works in like movies and books and television, but I'm like, in real life, like, I do that all the time, like, because I'm talking about what happened yesterday, right? Because she's like, oh, Shiro had a good poker face, and he's like, has, you know, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but I'm like, I'm so much lazier with things like that, right? I was like, I wasn't trying to say he's dead, right? Because there they always have to point it out, right? Like, oh, he's not dead yet. I'm like, no, I just meant because, like, yesterday.
The conversation we had yesterday.
Yeah, when he was driving, the face he had at that time, you know? Like, I'm like, because, yeah, I know, I'm like, oh, he's this or that, or they had, and then, yeah, people, and then I was like, no. But anyways, yeah. So exactly, he's like, Nicodemus was way too happy about getting his hands on Shiro. Like, yeah, he wouldn't have done it quick. He's like, I think he's drawing it out, and I think he's torturing him. And Susan, you know, is like, oh, how bad are these people? And, you know, and Harry's just like, you know, and again, we get his thought process on him. He's just like, they're bad. And Susan's like, oh shit, you know, like.
But Susan is like, yeah, she's got this whole like thing, like there was vibes down there that were like, you know, like Shiro was fully the light in the tunnel, and everything else was like so rotten and so dark. And we don't know at all what the vampire voodoo magic powers are exactly. But this is the first time that we've heard that they've been able to kind of sense that sort of a wavelength at all, right?
That's even what Harry's saying. He's like, I don't know if that's because of something the vampires did. He's like, I don't know if that's Susan's just intuition or like what, but exactly, right? She's like, whatever it is, whether it's her or her new supernatural stuff, yeah, she's like, I could feel, you know, like this trumpet of light, or like this evil, like tasted disgusting, you know, I'm like, sound tasting bad is just, that's gotta be bad.
Oh, is this part where she says that his voice stank?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, she's just like, yeah, she's like, even I, and yeah, Harry's like, it doesn't even, you know, it doesn't even have to, doesn't even want to, he's just like, they're bad, and she like knows, like, okay, you're being serious, there's no jokes, there's no facetious, there's no like, you know, it's just like, ugh. And even I think she's the first one, she's like, it's evil.
Yeah, it stank. It was rotted, corrupt.
Yeah.
And then I like the juxtaposition of saying that Shiro sounded like a trumpet.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you just feel like that clarion call, like again, right? That trumpet of angels. And
I mean, backing up just a little bit, I do have to really appreciate that Susan was like, asks Harry if he got the megalomaniacal brag fest from Nick.
Oh yeah,
Nicodemus.
she's like, don't you know everything he's supposed to be doing?
Because he does. He gets a lot of shit from that. I think the only time that they're like, no, not this time, buddy. But
Yeah.
So see, we've got another podcast in the works where we're talking about Johannes Cabal series, right? And in the first book, there's a scene when one character's trying to describe another character, and he's like, this word is so overused. He'd painted himself into a corner, and 1,000 lazy reporters and ever so sincere politicians had rendered the only word that he could use as comically melodramatic. I think that man is evil. Right? Which is, like, that's a quote from Johannes Cabal, not the Dresden Files, but I thought it worked really well here, too, because it's like, Nicodemus is not just, like, he's a bad guy that we've been up. Like, this guy is, like, he absolutely embodies everything about doing the wrong thing and being the bad guy and doing whatever it possibly takes to cause as much destruction and chaos as he can, evil.
Well, and
for the most part, up to this point, there's very little vulnerability shown from him too. So he's like a nigh perfect villain at this point.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of this non-judgmental world and this PC world we live in, nobody's, it's not a bad kid. He's just a little rambunctious. It's like, well, he skinned 3 of the neighbor's cats. That's not you know what I mean? It's this exactly right where we want to tone of him. We don't want to be like, they're not bad. They're just misunderstood.
They're just drawn that way.
Exactly, right? But
Sorry, I will never get tired of making that reference.
no, that's a fantastic reference. So, but that's just the thing, right? And I'm like,
Who framed Nicodemus?
Maybe more like Who Framed Harry Dresden.
Yeah, sure.
I feel more like
That's in a couple books from now.
50 Shades of Nicodemus.
Nicodemus.
It's 50 layers of Nicodemus.
I'm just gonna call him Nick from here on out.
Yeah.
Sorry, you'll just never hear me say it. I'm just gonna say Nick.
I imagine if, as an author, if I was typing out Nicodemus 100,000 times, I'd get a little tired of it anyways, too.
It's long, and and I just want to say Dermis. No, he is not Nick Skin.
No,
like
but he
Caduceus.
definitely gets under his skin. And
Caduceus from Critical Role. Everyone just calls him Caddy. We don't have time to say all that.
see, to me, it sounds like it should be Caduceus, not Caduceus.
Like the medical.
I've actually modified in
That's
my
what it's
notes
spelled
that I'm
after.
just writing Nick now.
Yeah. But, So anyway, we're gonna go out on a limb here and be like, no, Nick is actually evil. You can say that. It's not the watered down version. It's not the overuse. It's not the I'm being dramatic. It's like getting back to the actual root of that, Right. So she's like, well, what happens if we run into them out there? And it's like, they can get their own cab. He's got to go pick up his car, right? Martin dropped them off. He's still parked at Max, so... Yeah.
Just mostly
What if
making
they're
plans
waiting
at this
for
point,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, but it's just, again, right? He's like, 1 minute, he's like, they're bad. Like, these guys are terrible. They're awful. And then she's like, well, what if they're waiting for us? They can get their own cab. Let's go. I was like... But yeah, they go to get... Yeah, Harry's lost his jacket, so he has to go get his other... Is this his jean jacket? What
Squall.
is it called? Oh, yeah, squall jacket.
I had to look that up. There's lots of... I kept on getting Final Fantasy references from Final Fantasy VIII, and it's like there's a character that's called Squall, and he's got like this bomber jacket, but it's cut off like a
Crop top.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like it's
You're like, is that?
it's a little homoerotic, to be honest. It's like,
But I imagine a squall jacket is just like a windbreaker.
Well, squall is like a big rainstorm, so I am.
there was a lot of variety when I looked it up, to be
And
honest.
it's February, so it's going to be more than just a windbreaker. But yeah, I imagine it's one of those ones that probably, depending where you're from.
I love that every time Harry loses his jacket, it's just fashion show Harry. It's like he's got another jacket like for every
Well, I
scene.
wouldn't call it fashion show with him usually in sweatpants.
Purple sweatpants, janitor's
It
closet,
was
jean
like-
jacket, squall jacket.
But it's just funny. So one of the guys. So I just came back literally from cub camp. I'm still in uniform, and the dog has to sit in the yard because she's not acceptable for indoor behavior or indoor company right now. But one of the guys had a Tilly hat, which I think are very popular. I think that is a fairly common name for them. They are all around. That's one of your little...
Is that the Aussie hat?
Kind of the Aussie hat, yeah, exactly right. But one of them was looking at the actual tag they have in it, and it's funny. So, because it's the finest. So the Airflow is the type of this one. The Airflow Tilly hat, the finest in all the world, insured against loss, guaranteed for life, replaced free if it ever wears out. So it's like it floats, ties on, repels rain, blocks UV rays, won't shrink, and comes with a 4-page owner's manual made of nylon with strong polyester mesh. So you can't even wreck the instruction manual for this 4-page. And this is the best, why I had to take a picture of this. Handcrafted with Canadian persnicketiness. That is literally what it says in the label of this hat. Handcrafted with Canadian persnicketiness. This is how precise, but we were so persnickety, this hat meets our exact Canadian standard. But yes, it's at a bit. So whatever this squall jacket, exactly what that means to whoever, wherever, to Chicagoans.
I just opened Facebook. There was a fire there on the highway. That's why I was backed up.
Oh, I'm so glad we didn't take that. The freeway, that's the word I was looking for. Highway's not the word I want, the freeway.
Fire near Glenmore Trail and Deerfoot Trail. Yes,
That
going
would be
southwest.
where we were. Perfect.
Lots of fires again. I woke up to lots of smoke.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I did think it seemed... but
I know
anyways,
New York is all mad at us.
Western Canada's like, let's get back in on this shit.
It's been a week since we had a horrible fire. Let's start up again.
right? Let's go for it. So yes, he has to grab this other jacket, and yeah, Susan laments that the one disappointing thing about his duster is that because it's so long, she doesn't get to see his butt. So now he's obviously in just a waist-high jacket that she can see his butt, and he's like, I never noticed.
Well, we get a little bit of follow-up to the previous chapter. Like, Susan does get her jacket on, and then they start to leave. Harry tries to start to talk to her, but Susan stops him, saying that it shouldn't have happened, but it doesn't change anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she still would have made the same choice not to follow through with
Yeah,
continuing things.
Yes.
It's just too complicated.
Yeah, because she's like, I mean, this is exactly why. Like, we both fully admitted we still have these feelings and still want each other just because we acted on them. But this is the whole point, is look how much trouble we can get in if we do. And I still want to go do my work down there. You still want to do your work up here, right? So, yeah, he has that momentary, like, flicker of hope. And she's like, it was good, but no, that's... So
that is
right.
something that I do have to appreciate, that there was enough callback to the previous scene to sort of
acknowledge it.
to talk to where they were both at for it.
Yeah.
This concludes our episode 10.23, The Evil Overlord List. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnallys.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and to see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.